Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for those of you who are in the room this morning, and for those of you who are watching online on Facebook or YouTube now or later. Thank you so much for being here. I do want to say good morning to Terry and David. They're not here this morning because they need to say goodbye to their fur family member, Woody, who passed away last night. That's why they're not here right now. So we just want you to know that our hearts are with you. We love you, and if whatever you need, you know to contact us, and we are praying for you. Thank you so much. So we are a New Thought Spiritual Center, as who said? You said? Carter? All right. Who said it this morning? Carter. This one? As Carter said. And we're simply here. I love that song. We're simply here to remind you of who you already are and the power that is in you because of who you are. An individualized expression of the one love, God, Spirit, George, whatever you call that, which is greater than yourself. You are an individualized expression of the one. And so we're just here to remind you of that. And because as we go through our lives day to day, we tend to forget. We get busy living and forget who we are, and forget to bring the power of who we are to our everyday lives. Last week I talked about what's your superpower. And all of us have the same superpower, and that is the power of co-creation. That is what I'm here to remind you of today, is how we co-create our lives in every moment. And so today's talk, the creative urge, is with us all the time. There is this calling all the time, wanting us to answer. It is the God within. It is the Spirit within. It is the power within that is with you all the time. And we just forget. We just go through our lives. One of the things that we love as just human beings is we just like structure and we like repetition. So we just get into habits of doing, and that's not a bad thing. You know, in order for me to kind of get through my days, I have habits. I have a habit of praying and meditating every single morning. This is, to me, it's a good thing. So some habits are great, and just the habit of being is not necessarily what you want all the time. What we want to do, and what I believe, what I'm trying to do and talk to you about, that I say all the time, is what do you believe and what are your values? And I ask you to just look at your top 5, because that's what I call your DRM, which is your daily roadmap. So when you step out of your home, actually when you get out of bed every morning, before you even talk if you live with someone, if you're at home with someone, before you even engage with them, you remind yourself of who you want to be, who you are, who you claim you are. And that has to do with your values. So the power of creativity comes through us, and we get to use it either by default. We're creating all the time, either by default or on purpose, deliberately. And that's what our DRM is about, saying who we are and thinking about everything that we do. How does that relate to who we say we are? Are we behaving in the way that we say we want to be? So you all met Jason, my ex-husband, who's also a minister, New Thought, and he's spoken here and had a church in Waco. And one of the aggravating things that he said to me and the kids all the time, it was only aggravating because it was true. He would say he was very smart, and he loved to fix things up, and he was raised by a mother who didn't have a lot of money, so she always bought things and fixed it. Fixed up the house they lived in, or fixed up the apartment they lived in, or made curtains out of whatever. She was that woman. And so he worked beside her all the time. So he knew that you could make things better. You could fix things. And so if something wasn't working right, or, the kid's bicycle wasn't working, or, my son wrecked a car, he said, "You're smart. Figure it out." Because, just figure it out. You're smart. Look at it and figure it out. And we're like, oh my God, if we knew how to do it, we'd be doing it already. And you go, no, you do know how to do it. You just want to give it over and want someone else to do it, but you can do it. You're smart. So that's part of what we talked about last week, was affirming what we can do as as our God selves, and in supporting other people on their journey is speaking the truth that we know about them when they don't really know it themselves. And one of the truths that we didn't always affirm for ourselves is that we are smart and we can figure it out. And he was always doing that. So this is how I live my life now, thinking my way through things. And so I was in my garage. I don't know why I went out there to do something. I don't know. Anyway, I've got a portable wardrobe out there. So I move my winter clothes and summer clothes in and out of the house because the 4 closets that I have for myself inside the house aren't near enough. So I got to move things in and out, right? So I go out to the garage, and this, so this is the wall, and this thing is like leaning over, like trying to fall over. I'm like, what's happened here? Why is this going on? So I'm shoving it back, and it keeps leaning back. I'm like, what's going on? So I finally, moved it out, and I saw there was a big old pillow that I had put on top that had fallen back. And so I moved the pillow out the way and pushed it back, and of course it still was leaning out. I said, what is the problem here? What's going on? So I'm just looking at it. I'm like, all right, well, it needs to be anchored to the wall. It needs to be anchored. All right, how am I going to anchor this thing? Well, I got some anchors over here in this tool shed. Let me see if I can, right? I'm not going to take it every step, but I tripped over some stuff and hurt my leg and all this type of nonsense. But the wall is now anchored, it's up straight, and I've hung all my clothes in there, and more clothes than I was intending to, because now I know it can support it all. So my point is this, that is true. That we can look at things and we can say, what is going on here? What do I need to know? And it's not about me. I don't say it to my human self. I'm asking God. I'm asking George. I'm asking Spirit, what needs to happen here? What's going on? And the answers come. This is part of why we talk about meditating and at some place in your life, and I suggest in the morning before you even get out of bed, touching bases with Spirit. Just saying, hey, you hear? Do I hear your voice? Do I recognize how you speak to me? Whether it's a voice or whether it's something that happens, a synchronicity, it could be a painting that you see, it could be a bird, plastic, whatever it is that you know to be God speaking to you, you just make sure that that's that, because you can't wait until an emergency, until you're all excited about something horrible has happened and try to hear the voice of God for you, because there's too many voices going on, too much fear happening, and that has to be a loud voice over everything else. And you need to know what that voice is. And sometimes I don't, because I don't always know. Well, I actually do know, because I talk to George all the time, but I don't want to know, right? Because I don't like that answer. Like telling me to stop, stick to my own business and get out of other people's business. Well, I know a lot of stuff, and I want to share that with you. But as I've told you all, you cannot answer a question that isn't being asked, even though you want to, even though you feel like you have a solution, because what's going to happen? What's going to happen if you share a solution that isn't being asked for? I'm asking a question. You didn't ask me to ask you, but I'm asking you anyway. Irritation. People, they're not going to want to come talk. What'd you say? Rejection. They're going to reject it out of hand. Or if they do take your advice and it doesn't work, it's your fault, right? That's the biggest reason why you don't want to give somebody, yeah. We've got some faces over here that are familiar with that, giving some advice and then you're getting blamed for how someone's life is turning out. If you know who you are and you know who they are, is there any need to give advice? No, because they're talking to the same spirit that you're talking to, because they are that same spirit. It's not so much that we are giving advice to people as that we are affirming when they're asking, when they're saying, because I had a friend one time, she was just so upset. She'd parked her car, couldn't find it, and for whatever reason, when she came out of this big mall, she couldn't find it, and for whatever reason, she just felt like she was losing her mind. Like, is this Alzheimer's kicking in, or what is going on here? Because she was just so upset. She was actually going to call her husband to come pick her up, and she was pretty far away from where they lived. But she called me first, in tears, and told me what was going on. And she said, "Am I losing my mind?" I said, "No, you're not losing your mind. First of all, you're busy. You are tired as heck, because you've been going. You just came back from a retreat. You just came back from a conference that you were in, so you are tired as heck. When you looked at it, you did look at it when you parked it, and then you went about your business. But then you just got turned around inside and you came out the wrong door. That is all that has happened. So get in the car with the mall security and have them drive you around. Your car is there. Nobody's taking it. It's there. And so that's what she did. And she did find it. It was there. There was no place else for it to be. My point is this. I already knew she wasn't losing her mind. I know how bright she is. I knew how afraid she was. And I knew how tired she was. So I can affirm the truth that I know about her. She called me and asked, what's going on with me? And that's why I was able to share with her. And that's why she accepted it, what I said, because she asked, okay? So that's what we do. And that creative urge, how did I know what to tell her? I didn't just tell her off the top of my head. I asked God what to tell her. Just like I ask God to tell you every Sunday morning. I have I write these titles a year out because the marketing people want it. And David wants it, and he wants it for the bulletin and all that kind of stuff. But when I look at it, when I'm getting ready to write it, I'm like, what is this about? Every time. Every time. And I asked Spirit, what's this about today? What's this about? And it was completely different than the words, because I write myself little notes. When I'm writing it down, I write myself notes about what's it about. But when I look at it and I read the notes, I'm like, this doesn't make no sense. What? And so I have to ask God again, what's it about today? And this is what was given to me. This is what was given to me. This is about not putting our lives on autopilot as much as we can, being in the moment and talking with Spirit all the time about what is mine to do right now in this moment. Now, I shared with you the craziness that happened to me at Walmart. I knew I was talking to God the whole time because I knew I was acting crazy. I knew it was not about anyone else, and it was about me. And so, I got the answer. I wasn't happy with it because it was all about me being wrong. I don't care for that. But that was the case. I knew that was the case. And so that's what we get to do. When I know that I'm acting outside of my 5 top values, this is not who I am. This is not who I want to be. You can stop and go, no. Bring about the person I say that I am. How do I show up as the person I say that I am? Unconditional love, courageous, right? Caring about my family and my tribe. How do I show up as that? That's what I want to know. Show me that way. And so I'm talking about calling upon Spirit all the time. I'm talking about being in conversation with Spirit all the time. That creative urge is with you all the time. When you ask, what is mine to do here? That is you deliberately listening and hearing. Sometimes we're just on autopilot, and it could be your ego that's talking, and there's no right or wrong. There's never that. There's no right or wrong. It's your life. That's all. And what we're claiming is how we get to say how we want to show up. This is what I said, these 5 things. This is what I want to be. I want to tell the truth. I want to know Spirit. I want to love unconditionally everyone, right? Love my family. Those are the 5 things. And when I wasn't, back to the Walmart thing, I wasn't loving unconditionally. I didn't do that. So how do I show up? And I asked for that. So I've shared this with you before, but it was such a pivotal place in my life. I was at a convention a women's convention in San Diego, and the speaker was talking about conversations, like how do you get into like when you're talking with someone and getting into discussion. She said, don't start having your response in your head. You have to listen fully to what that person is saying. Don't prepare your answer. And I was like, in my seat, I'm thinking, that's nonsense. How are you supposed to know what to say if you're not thinking up some answers in your head? How are you supposed to? Yeah. So I marched right up to her and got in line, to stand and talk to her. And I got, that is nonsense what you just said. I don't believe that. How does that happen? How are you supposed to respond to someone if you're not already thinking about what you want to say? She said, how do you know what they're going to say if you haven't waited till they finish? That was the number 1 thing. It's like, ooh, that's true. So I'm only kind of responding to the middle of what they said. I haven't listened to the whole thing. So that's number 1. I can't respond. And then she said, you have plenty of time to respond to someone. Just because someone has finished talking doesn't mean you have to jump right in with your response. So this is a thing that was difficult for me to get, because I always thought, Well, it's a back and forth. They say something, I say something, they say something, right? Right? It's a little dance. No. They say something. You can pause. Hang on. Okay, well. And you're just thinking about it. You're just asking Spirit, what are my thoughts on that? What do I want to say? You don't look crazy because you didn't respond right away. You actually look thoughtful. You actually not only look thoughtful, you in fact are thoughtful. You don't already have your argument, your preconceived notions ready to shoot back at someone else. You're thinking about what they actually said, and you're thinking, what are my thoughts on that? Is that a true statement for me? What? And to know that, you don't have to look back in your archives and think about the experiences that you've had or what you've read about that or whatever. You can ask Spirit. So what do we think about this, George? What do we think? What do you think? You already know what you think about this, girlfriend. We've talked about this many times. This is part of your 5 things. This is what you think. Ah, right, this is what I think. So, thank you. I agree with that. That is a very valid point. Thank you so much. Whatever. Or this has been, not that I don't disagree with people. I really don't. Because they have a right to what they're saying. They have a right to their thoughts. What I can say is, that's not been my experience. That's all. That's not been my experience. Here's been my experience. This is what I see. For me. You don't have to see it. You don't have to do it. I'm just saying, in conversation, this has been my experience. This has been my experience with you. This has been my experience with other people. This has been my experience with speaking. Or, I agree, that has been my experience as well. It's either, yes, that's been my experience as well, that's been my thoughts, or that hasn't been my experience. Here's what my experience are. That's what we get to do. But we know what we want to say. We know what we want to do because we already know what we said, who we said we want to be. I keep putting this up because these are the 5 values that you have, your top values, that when you walk out the door, they're always on your mind. They're always on your mind. You know how you want to show up because you've talked about it to yourself with Spirit. What's important to me? What's of value? And when you pick those 5, you go out in the world and you see if that's actually true. And sometimes oh, wait a minute, it's in the wrong order. What's the most important to me is my relationship with Spirit. Because when I'm out and about, how do you know what to say, or how do you know what to do if you don't have a relationship with Spirit? That's my thoughts for me, for how I want to show up. Whatever is yours. But you go out and you experiment with what it is that you want to say. So there's just absolutely no reason why you can't show up as yourself every single time. And why you can't just say, let me get back to you on that. Whatever it is someone's saying, if you don't want to say something right away, you could say, I'll get back to you on that. That's a great thought. Let me get back to you on that. No reason you can't say that. There's no rush. There's no rush. If you drop dead, well, then the problem solved. And if you and if you don't, well, the next time you see him, oh, I want to get back to you on that. You're right. I did. I agree. When I was, searching my soul for it, or my heart, if I have not learned anything else, and if you have not understood anything else, please know this. Your heart is the only thing that knows the truth, not your mind. Your mind can rationalize anything. Your mind has a whole bunch of information that you've given it, okay? The truth is in your heart. And get used to, sometimes you want to know, you think, how could I possibly know that? Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter how you possibly can. You know it. Speak it. Speak the truth. Your heart knows the truth. Don't be afraid to speak from your heart, because that's the only thing that matters. It's the only thing that matters. So fall in love with your heart, because that's where God speaks to you from your heart. Everything you need to know is right there. It's right there always. So that's all I want to say. Just give yourself time to think about what you want to say. Consult Spirit and decide what is it you want to, how is it you want to respond. And ask yourself the question, is this response aligned with who I want to be, who I say I am. That is it. That is it. So the three things that I want you to walk away with. There's no need to immediately respond to anything or anybody. No need. And people push you. Well, I was at Anton this past conference, and we were doing we had a membership meeting, and I was up. My position on the board was up, and so I was need to be reelected or not. And so there was a lot of talk, and the candidates were talking and saying what they're about and all that. And so one woman asked how long I had been a member of Anton. And I said, it's a complicated question. And she said, well, what has it been? Has it been 2 years, 3 years? I mean, how many is it? And I said, don't bully me. I've just told you it's a complicated question. I'll get back to you. Okay, that's it. She doesn't get to, in front of everyone, well, it's a simple question. It's a simple question to you. But you don't know my situation, and my situation is this. We started Anton, Jason and I, in 1995. I did not know that we weren't both members, because it was at that time just a minister's organization. So in my mind, I've been a member of Anton since 1995. I've been going, I've been supporting him, but that's not a true answer. And so I have to look back at my records and when did I actually join as a minister myself? Okay, so I didn't know. So you don't have to be forced into an answer. If you're not prepared to respond, you can just say that. I'm not prepared to respond, as I just said, and I will get back to you. Nobody gets to push you into being anything other than what you want to be and how you want to respond at any moment of your life, because it's your life. Okay? So no need to immediately respond, no matter what somebody else wants you to do. No need to do that. 2, think about how you want to show up. Hopefully you've already done that. You already know what your values are, at least 1 or 2 of them. And know that that's how you want to show up. And number 3, ask Spirit, your heart, for advice. What do I want to do here? How do I show up as me here right now? This is what we do here. This is what New Thought is, Harmony Spiritual Center. What is the practical, positive practices that we get to do to show up in our lives as we say we want to show up? That's what we do here. That's what this is about. So to create the life of your choosing, you get to decide, you get to think, you get to ask, you get to pause, you get to do all those things, whatever you need in any or every situation. You get to think your way through it, feel your way through it, and answer from your heart. Give yourself the time that you need. What response would be the me that I want to be right now? I want to leave you with this quote. This is from Edwin Catmull. He's the creator of Pixar, and he's the president of Disney Animation. And he says this: I apply the term creativity broadly. Creativity is problem solving. We are all faced with issues and problems that we have to address. We have to think about them, we have to think about something new, and that's where creativity comes into play. Every single time, you get to stop and say, who I want to be right now? How do I want to show up? And ask Spirit for the guidance, and you get that. For me, the power to create is innate in every one of us. When and how much we're going to use that power, it's up to you. It's up to you. And so it is. Namaste.